Hi everyone, a short video here for reviewing sorting and ideation. We're going to be doing this around the case of a regional bank looking at small business customers. The slides I'm going to show you are appendix slides in the topic 9 pricing handout here, and also have a little bit of a short video after this one to do a quick run through of the GSP spreadsheet and also the final report template for doing the same thing. They're kind of alternative ways of doing the same thing. Our case is about a bank that's kind of struggling with small business segment in the loan product area. Lots of competition, concerned about current positioning, and also how to differentiate within that market and grow the business. So the context statement looks like this. Want to grow low volume by creating more value for local small business clients than do their current banks. An internal analysis shows this kind of familiar pattern we often see, where the internal team believes that we are delivering a lot of great value to these customers. So area A, the green zone or the Pope's hat, is full of choice factors. The internal analysis also indicates that the team believes that low interest rates and low fees are the very most important things to clients, and also that we own both of those factors. They're both green zone or area A factors. As happens a lot, the story from customers is quite different. Finding that on a couple of dimensions. First of all, low interest rates, as an example, are actually far less important than the team suggests, and also equivalent between the competitors and us. So we're perceived to be equivalent, which is a very interesting element, has important implications for strategy. Low fees are important, but note, they are perceived to be owned by the competition. Interestingly, our advantages, and we do have a couple, are around service, and we'll get to that in a second here. We're going to call this as a top-down approaches, and so we're going to look kind of zone by zone and be thinking about overall strategy here. A bottom-up approach would be if we said, well, we believe the answer is to cut interest rates. Then we go right to interest rates. I'm going to go back a slide here, and we'd say, well, we're not going to cut interest rates because it's not that important to people, and it's not giving either of us a competitive advantage. So that's bottom up. Top down is we're going to look at each zone one at a time with this whole idea of the goal of building differentiation through a variety of imperatives. And you know the imperatives. We've been through around this model several times here. So being different from competitors in ways important to customers is at the top, the core, right? Area B, gray zone, here is points of parity, or includes points of parity, delivering the basics credibly. But you could also look potentially for differentiators there. Area C, where we can take away the competitor's value, provided it's not going to cost us an arm and a leg to neutralize that factor. There may be some factors that you can't take away from competitors because they're either naturally endowed or they're structurally endowed. Yellow are unmet needs. There are opportunities for innovation here and for fixing problems. Areas D and E represent lower value choice factors, and can we cut out or stop promoting factors that are of less value? And then the red area F, can we exploit these factors down here, which favor the competitor in the customer's mind, but are just not important or less important? So take these imperatives one at a time. So initially, take a hard, honest look at your green zone. Do you have anything in the green zone? Very often, the answer is no, and that's fine because that's where you begin to build from. In the case of the bank, they discovered surprisingly that they did have a couple of strong green zone items, but they're related to service. Provided service as a team and it's being provided by knowledgeable employees. Good, but unexpected, right? So we take a look at this, and it's like any other company. It may be that this is just in our genes, that we've developed this culture over time that is very team-oriented and very service-oriented, and that's what our customers like. We didn't really know necessarily that that's what was driving them, but it's important to know. However, an important dimension when you're looking at the green zone is how sustainable is it? And how sustainable is it? And that's why in the book we get into later chapter on capabilities and resources, how unique are your capabilities to deliver these advantages, right? May be hard to maintain. And when you get to Professor Bamford's class coming up here, he does a wonderful job of really driving into what are the core drivers of sustainable advantage on the capability side. We are not going to dive deeply into that, but it's a fair point here that service advantages and advantages based on, if we say people, can be difficult to maintain because all banks have people, right? And all banks have processes where people learn. The way that you lock in those services is to really continuously look at service process and delivery of service process effectively. So you'll get to that. The conclusion here is that anytime you do have advantages around service and people, may not last. That advantage may not last without reinforcement. So that is a very, very, very significant thing to take into account as you're planning strategy forward. So the thing to think about there are ways to build and leverage the team structure that's in existence and to really build and ratchet up continuous learning, as well as how you deliver service processes to small businesses, because that uniqueness is something that can be built, and you can actually turn it into a knowledge base into something that's difficult to imitate, but it takes a really conscious effort. You can't just assume it away because we have people. Right? In imperative two, are we doing enough to meet the points of parity minimums? Are there options? And secondly, are there options to move any area B points of parity to area A? So here we're talking about area B, points of parity. And a good example of kind of a structural point of parity that you're not going to be changing, on a regular basis are your locations. So as long as you all have you and the competitor have a common set of locations that you don't have a disadvantage on that, it doesn't mean you need to, there's not likely much value from investing $10, $20 million in new locations, right? Fast service response, if you both perceive to be equal on that. Also something you want to hold steady and make sure you continue to deliver on. Possibly there could be a way to move that into area A, but that's something that requires further analysis. For the most part, these are something you'd want to hold steady on and make sure you're up to par on those. Imperative 3, there may be obvious competitive deficiencies that can be neutralized. That's something to be continuously looking at. But also take a look at whether there may be some things you just want to give to the competitor, allow them to have it. And low fees may be one, particularly if the competitor is a low-cost leader, right? Because it's very difficult to compete with a low-cost leader on fees. They can hold your head underwater as long as they want. It may be something that's important to customers, but in fact, if you can trade off and build more value up here, the goal would be to offset the concern here. And there may be different ways to look at that, but neutralize the things that are obviously important to customers and can be neutralized at a low cost. Otherwise, take a hard look at whether you just want to give those to the competitor. Opportunity to differentiate, right, in area G, in the green, by innovating or fixing long-standing problems. This one is really interesting here because willing to give advice is number one, and it's an unmet need. Interestingly, that kind of has an interesting fit with your service orientation and with your team orientation. In other words, that you have knowledgeable people, and the customer really appreciates the team approach, getting different aspects of service from different members of the team, kind of feeling like they have a holistic view of their business. And willing to give advice may be something that is a very natural fit with that, right? That if you can bring in additional expertise or train your people to deliver that expertise around, let's say, financial advice, financial planning, that could be something that could be a very strong and reinforcing factor in your competitive advantage. Right? So that's one that really pops up. Improving loan application process could be something that you might consider. Again, it is an unmet need, so it could provide a basis for a competitive advantage. But depending upon resources, because that's a fairly large undertaking as well. So you prioritize these by importance, and probably put a pretty high priority right here. Again, pending resources. As we look at area E, the question here is, do we want to, if we're promoting number 8, easy to use website, well, just stop it. It's not going to have that big an impact on decision making, because there are so many other things that are much more important to customers. And again, low interest rates here suggest that, well, we'll just hold steady on them. Don't make a big deal out of interest rates, because customers are not making a big deal, because there are so many other things that are more important to them in their decision making in this market. Area F is about exploiting the competitor's uniqueness. There are some risks of trying to do something like this. It's not relevant in this case because we don't have any Area F factors, but the challenge is that it brings attention to less important factors. So you're just raising attention to both your competitor and a less important factor. And at times, that actually can heighten attention and make it more important. But the idea would be to highlight our strong points of difference. Use the contrast to highlight our strong points of difference. So there's a little bit of risk to that strategy, and it's not a very common strategy, but it's one worth mentioning. So, summary: building and promoting a legitimately different team, a knowledge base, and an advice source will bring new accounts. Right? We're finding these are the key drivers that are important to small businesses. To the extent we can deliver these factors in a unique way with resources and capabilities our competitors can't match, there is a strong possibility of building on that competitive advantage. So, willing to give advice is an unmet need, and if we can develop a new solution here, it could be a big win, because it's number one. Right? Building and defending our current advantages in team and knowledgeable employees could be a very important part of the way we go forward or continue to go forward. Interest rates not as big a deal. Fast service response may be something we may want to watch this and see if we can build something here. Easy loan application is still an unmet need, so it may provide potential once we've captured this one. But prioritize this one, number one, willing to give advice first. Monitoring locations and making sure we don't lose any parity there. Don't promote the website. Hang on interest rates. The next little video coming up will be about the GSP spreadsheet and how we use it and the final report template to think through, well, what are the capabilities and skills we need to deliver on this? And, do we have the budget for that? Do we have the ability to access those capabilities? That's the next kind of gating factor in making sure we can get this stuff done. So thanks, and we'll be talking to you on the next day.